Hello and welcome to this special episode, even as we mark the Health Week of the Presbyterian Church of East Africa with the theme Restoration to Wholeness, hoping that with the health tips and health topics that we discuss, you're going to be restored mentally, physically, and even spiritually. Well, it is said that mental health is a very crucial aspect of us human beings, and this marks our topic of discussion today. My name is Aida Munzati, and on set I'm being joined by Sister Margaret Kiarie, who is the matron at the Kikuyu Hospital. Thank you very much, Sister, for joining us on set today. Hope you're doing well.
Thank you very much, Aida, for welcoming me. I'm doing very well.
You're well?
Yes.
Mentally as well?
Yes, mentally too. Yes.
Okay, so why mental health?
Yeah, mental health, like you've just said, it's very, very important aspect of our lives. And when we talk about health and wholeness, and like the Presbyterian Church of East Africa is having a theme during the Health Week about restoring to wholeness, then you cannot talk about health and not talk about mental health. Because when you talk about wholeness and health, then you're talking about mental health, you're talking about physical health, you're talking about spiritual health, you're talking about social, economic, and even environmental health. Yes, so it's a very, very crucial, and also considering that mental health, you're talking about the brain, which is actually the engine of the whole body, and of the mind, you know, that the mind that tells someone do this or do that. So you can imagine that it is so important to even discuss about it. Yes.
Okay, so now let's delve into our topic of discussion, that is mental health and substance use. Let us first start by creating a basis for our audience. When do you say that someone is mentally healthy?
Now, when we say that someone is mentally healthy, number one, someone has to know their potentials. They have to know what are they able to do, what are they not able to do, what can they do even better. Are they doing it? Then what are their responsibilities? So, like say someone is in school, you know, they have a responsibility as a student. And you realize that there are some students who will not be able to meet their responsibilities even in school. So if, or even it's a husband, you have a responsibility. If it's a wife, you have a responsibility. Everyone has responsibilities. I'm sure even you being here is because you have a responsibility. So if you are not mentally healthy, then you will not be able to meet those responsibilities. We also say that there in life, I'm sure probably as you came here, you found some jam somewhere, you found, you know, some people were misbehaving, or, you know, and that caused some stress for you. And so those are normal stresses of life. So if one is able to cope with the normal stresses of life, which are very common to us, I mean, every day is stressful. If one is able to cope, then that person is mentally healthy. So we look at those things, and then we say that also when someone is able to cope, is know their potential, know their responsibility, then they become productive. They are able to become productive and even fruitful, not just productive, because there are people who work very, very hard. I'm sure you have seen people who are not mentally healthy. They work very hard, collecting, you know, rubbish, doing all that. But is it fruitful? No. Is not fruitful. So whatever we are doing something that's going to be fruitful for us. So when we talk about that, then we say that being fruitful then means that we're also contributing to the community or the society that we live in. That is a person who is mentally healthy. Yes.
Now let's bring in the aspect of mentally unhealthy.
Yes. So when someone is mentally unhealthy, then we are talking about someone who is not able to do all the things we've talked about. Number one, when they have a stress, their emotions tend to be overboard. They are not able to cope with that stress. So you'll find that somebody might, you know, do things overboard that a normal person will be doing. Someone who is mentally healthy will be doing. They also are, you know, because they are not able to regulate, you know, their emotions. You know, when it comes to crying, there's a way that we regulate the way we cry, or even laughing. I mean, if you can see some people who are laughing and you find somebody laughing. Sometimes, like now in this hospital, you have a mortuary. If you see someone laughing at the mortuary because they've seen the dead person, is that person really, healthy? So those are some of the disorders that we look at and we say that this person is having challenges with their mentality. They are not able to cognitively be able to perceive things the way they are supposed to be perceived or the way they see.
You've brought in a very key thing that anyone can be mentally unhealthy. Many people would say that a mad person in the street, that's someone that is not mentally fit. Maybe you can just make that clear to our audience that you don't have to be on the streets for you to be mentally unfit.
Exactly. You don't have to be on the streets for you to be mentally unfit. You could just be at home. You have deep depression. And you are still at home and you're with your family and all that. But the family may be able to recognize some bit of maybe withdrawal, some bit of, somebody feeling down, or someone is not as happy as they are. They are not carrying themselves the way they normally carry themselves, and they could tell there's a problem here. So that is some level of mental unhealthiness. Yes.
Okay. So, of course, we are discussing about mental health and substance use.
Yes.
Let's just keep substance use aside a little and look at other causes of our mentally unfitness. What could cause one to be mentally unhealthy, even before we come to substance use?
Exactly. So there are many other things like one would have had injury, because when we talk about mentally unfit or mentally unhealthy, then we are talking about something that has affected the brain. So what could affect the brain? There could be some diseases that would affect the brain. There could be some injuries. Maybe someone had an accident and the brain was affected, and I'm sure you have seen, I don't know if you have seen, but when people have had accidents, they behave like, like they are really not with everybody else. You might even see someone running very fast because the brain, there has been some trauma in the brain. There could be some growths, things that have grown in the brain, and therefore they have changed the composition of the brain in that particular pattern. And most of the time, you see, the brain is one very, very important part of organ of our body, because it is the one that deals with all the communication. When you want to lift your hand, it's the brain that says lift your hand. When you touch something hot, it's the brain that tells you that's dangerous. When you are walking, when you are seeing, it's the brain that actually sees for you. So if any of those parts of our bodies are affected, then we will be doing something different. So you'll not be seeing. That doesn't mean you are mentally abnormal, but your brain has been affected. So you will be seeing you'll be seeing things in different ways. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because there is the communication in the brain. If the communication in the brain is disrupted because of one or the other thing, then you find that person will be doing something different. So if you are supposed to lift your hand, you might lift your leg. Something that will actually be being abnormal from what is expected. Yes.
Okay, that's very clear. Now let us look at the connection between mental health and substance use.
Yes. Now what we've just talked about, the mental health, we've talked about the causes that really one may not have much to do about. But when it comes to substances, and when we talk about substance use, we talk about anything that we use that actually has some, I'll call it psychoactive effect, meaning that it will have some effect on our brain. So when we talk about those substances that have some effect on our brain, and these substances don't have to be drugs, they can even be the coffee that we take. That has some effect on our brain because of the caffeine that is in that coffee, or even in the tea that we take, the components that in the substances that we take. But then we have those that are regularly known, that is the alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, cat like Mira, and some other drugs like cocaine, like morphine, like, all those things. But these things, these substances are useful for positive things. They are used for medical. Some of them are used for medical uses, like morphine, or even Valium, or phenobarbital. Those kind of things. Those kind of drugs are used for a medical reasons. But now, when they are not being used for a medical reason, that's when we say now someone is using the substance. But when they are using it, it has not reached a point where it's now actually started showing the effect on the brain. But that doesn't mean that when we are using that it is not affecting the brain. So it is still affecting the brain, and there are effects that are there, but the effects have not started coming out into the open, that now you can tell that there is something wrong with me because I'm using the substance that I'm using. Yes.
Okay. So of course, as you've said, there are those things that we have control over, and like substance use, we don't have control over, or we have control over.
Yes.
So can you distinguish when you see someone? Can you distinguish that maybe this person had an accident, that's why they are mentally unfit, or they are under influence of drugs?
Now, when it comes to the issue of distinguishing, you'll have to do quite a lot, because when it comes to the effect on the brain, then there are some drugs or substances that we know this is what happens when someone uses this particular substance. But then there are some other problems, or let me call them mental disorders, that are there. Like someone has schizophrenia, someone has bipolar, someone has, there are mental disorders that are already there. You may not be able to distinguish unless now you take this person through some assessment. This is where now we do assessment, and when we do the assessment and we do interview, and we screen the person and we do the assessment, then we are able to tell that this person has actually a mental disorder and or are using a substance. So you see, you could be having a mental disorder and you're also using a substance, and one is covering the other. So if I know that you're using a substance, or if the family knows that you're using the substance, they would be saying that this person uses this substance, that's why they are behaving the way they behave. But when you do the assessment, you might realize that this person, on top of using the substance, they also have a mental disorder. Or you could have someone who probably has a mental disorder, or is using substances but doesn't have any mental disorder. It is only through the assessment and the screening that you can be able to tell. Yes.
Okay, you've now talked over behavioral changes. What are some of these changes that people should look out for maybe them to know whether this particular person is under an influence of a particular drug?
Now, the behavioral changes are, there are things that people will do. First, of course, the substances that people are using, they are using things that are going to either excite. Some of them are depressants. Some of them are things that are going to make them, be excited. Some of them they are taking because they are probably in pain and they want to remove that pain. Maybe the pain could even be psychological pain, but they feel that there's a pain and they want to remove that pain. So, depending on what they have taken. So, for example, now alcohol is taken because someone wants to feel good and to feel excited and to actually forget whatever maybe they are going through, and they have some form of distress or some form of stress that they are going through. But now, when you think about alcohol, alcohol is actually a depressant. So what it will do to the brain, it will depress the brain so that the brain is not alert. So once the brain is not alert, that's why you find a lot of accidents, happening because of alcohol, because of people who have taken alcohol, because maybe somebody took, thinking that they are very vibrant, but on the way they are so depressed, so they are not even able to judge, they are not even able to see where they are going, because now the brain it has already reached the brain, and it's already the communication in the brain is now the alcohol is telling the brain, now you are supposed to be down, you're supposed to be depressed, you're supposed to be relaxed, so the brain is not doing what it's supposed to do. But of course, as we say, there are those accidents that happen. There are people also, like for example, people who take injections. People who inject themselves, they will have other diseases that will come up, like HIV, like hepatitis B, and even C. So you find that people will have that. Then there are other people who will have other communicable diseases. So for example, now people who smoke will, they share, like now during COVID. If people are sharing a cigarette, you can easily get COVID, from the other person. Then there are people who take alcohol. You find that alcohol is metabolized in the liver very, very highly, and therefore it also affects the liver. So you might find somebody is having issues with the liver. So there are things that you will see, and you will know that this person, and probably to lead you to ask the person, do you take alcohol? Do you smoke? Because like people who smoke, also a lot of that smoke affects the lungs. So if probably you went to the lungs and you took an X-ray and you saw, then you might ask somebody, do you smoke? You see, you are trying to rule out. And they will tell you, yes, I have been smoking for the last of maybe 40 years or something like that. And you can almost tell that is the reason why they are like that, yes.
Yeah. Let us look at an example of maybe a teenager, someone going to school. What are some of the things that a parent can use to identify, maybe my son is not well, my daughter is not doing well? Yeah. Exactly.
Remember we said about mental health, and we said that they're not productive, they're not fruitful, they don't know their potential. This person is not doing things, they don't know their responsibility. So this is one of the things that they will be doing, is that this person will not maybe they'll be late in school. They're not motivated even to go to the school. They actually, do not attend classes, and you'll be getting those reports. And then, of course, their performance is also going to be low. And that is at, stages that are quite, that means that really the drug has taken over their brain. So you will find that this person is having all those challenges, even at home. Now, when you probably even look at where they sleep, they can't make their bed, and they don't see anything wrong with that. They don't even, they're not concerned about, even bothered about all these things. And there's something that we normally say, that sometimes you could be you could be a very good parent, and maybe your child, this same child, has been taken by the police. And because of something, maybe they were caught and they were taken in, and now as a parent, of course, you go and try to get them out. And when they are out, because we said that the emotions are also affected, how they regulate their emotions. When they are taken out and they come home, and you probably are trying to tell them, hey, you see, so and so, you remember what I did for you? The day you were caught, I got you out. And then he will ask you, did I ask you? Did I ask you to do this? You see, that's not a normal reaction. I mean, he didn't actually appreciate. Because to him, he doesn't have that emotion that you have. There is a part in our brain, that is the midbrain, that is actually carries our emotions. Our crying, our laughing, our affection, it actually is in that area. And if that area is also affected, then you find that person really are emotionless. They they don't mind, they don't really, are not so concerned, yes, about other people. Yes, and then of course they have the withdrawal. So when they come in, you will find that most of the time they are hiding. You don't know where they are, but somehow they will reappear because maybe they were going to use the substance, because the body is asking for it. They can't do it in the house, so they will find a place, they will take what they are taking, and they will come back. Then they will definitely even maybe go to their room and hide there. If it's something that is smelling, for example, like they are taking cigarettes, they will definitely have to maybe stay away from everybody else until that smell is out. So those are some of the telltale signs that something is not right. Yes.
Okay. Sister, we can now talk of addiction. At what point do you say that someone is addicted?
When people talk about addiction, they think that it is a personality issue, or it is a moral problem. It's a bad upbringing, and you might find even some parents, starting to feel like, I am a bad parent. I don't know how to parent. That's why my child is doing this or the other. But that is not true. Addiction has a biological and genetic predisposition. It is not every child that actually takes whatever substances that get addicted, or every adult or every person that gets addicted. But there is some biological connotation and some genetic connotation that actually makes somebody become addicted to certain substances. So, and when you look at that, then you also look at the environmental, interaction with that person who has this genetic and biological predisposition. Then what environmental and how are they interacting with that particular environment? Because if someone has those genetic and biological composition, and they're not in an environment where they are accessing these substances, then they will not get addicted. But if they're in an environment that they will get the substances, then they will get addicted.
Just a minute. When you're talking of genetic exposition and biological exposition, what exactly do you mean?
That means the way someone is wired. I would say the wiring. The wiring, which of course that one is natural. There's nothing you can do about the wiring. Yes, it is natural wiring. Yes, that's what I mean.
Okay, you can proceed.
Yes. So, so when we talk about addiction, then it's very important for us to think about addiction as a brain disease. And it's not just a brain disease, because we talk about other diseases. We talk about hypertension, and we say hypertension is a chronic disease. It is the same thing with addiction, and this is something that I would like everyone to know, that addiction is a brain disease and it is chronic. And worse still, for addiction, it relapses. Relapses means that it can come back even after somebody has recovered from addiction. It can actually come back. Now, why is it a brain disease? And why we like to say that it is a disease is because for every disease there is a cause for that disease. Addiction also has causes, and causes would be the substance that someone is using. That is the cause. The other one is it alters the normal function of the person. And this time, the normal function that is caused by the brain, because it is the brain that is being affected. Then it also has signs and symptoms, just like any other disease. And I think we have talked about the signs and symptoms. What will tell that someone has addiction. And it all depends on, because we said it's a brain disease, it depends on which part of the brain is affected. So the signs and symptoms that you will see those signs and symptoms that are related to the part that is affected, the part of the brain. When you do investigations, the same way we do investigations for other diseases, the same thing you'll do. For addiction, you'll do investigations of the brain. So you can do CT scans, MRI and all that, and there will be some changes in the brain that will be showing that this person is probably using some substance. And of course now with the screening and the assessment, you are able to know that. So that is what addiction is, that it is a chronic brain disease that also relapses. Very, very important, like any other disease. Yes, that is what addiction is. Yes.
Let us now look at the consequences of substance use, or the consequences of now this particular person being addicted.
Now, even as we go to the consequences of substance use, it's also important for us to know that what are people looking for when they are taking the substances that they are taking. There are some substances that are produced naturally in our brain that are then passed through in the brain in a natural way. These are, I will call them chemicals, and these chemicals are the ones that make us happy. Actually, anything you do, you want to be happy. Even for you to go to work, you're looking for money so that you can be happy and feel satisfied with life, isn't it? So they are looking for that satisfaction. They are looking for that happiness. There are 4 chemicals, main chemicals that are produced in the body that makes us happy. And the 4 main chemicals, one of them is called dopamine. There's another one called oxytocin. Another one is called serotonin, and another one is called endorphin. Now, each one of them have their effects. So like for dopamine is one thing that makes you feel that you have achieved. You know, it helps you to feel good. It helps you to be happy. It helps you to feel that you have actually, gotten what you wanted to get. Then the oxytocin is the one that makes you feel that I belong. Once it is produced, that thing that makes you feel that you belong, that is the thing that makes the brain produce oxytocin. And of course, when you feel that I have a team, I have a family, I belong here, I trust so and so, I trust so and so, that makes you feel good, isn't it? The same thing with, like dopamine is, when you are trying to achieve something and you are looking for something, then you feel good. You feel good when you are doing something and you are feeling good about it. You feel good. Those feel good effects are what actually the substances will give the people. Then when you go to endorphin is another one that helps you overcome pain. So for example, if you are going through a very, very difficult time and you are feeling so much pain, how do you like maybe someone has wronged you, how do you now overcome that? We said the normal stresses of life. The brain naturally will produce endorphin, and endorphin will bring down your pain. But now, someone else will have to use something to bring down that pain. So those substances that people use, they use to give them the same effects that the natural chemicals that are produced naturally in the body are doing for us. So say for example now someone went to discover something, or let's assume you are studying. Once you have finished, when you are studying, there's a lot of pain. But you know the results. So you don't stop studying because it's becoming very difficult. You have failed. You don't stop. You continue because you know that at the end of that pain, you have some results. Then when now it comes to the day of graduation, you feel so good. Dopamine is at the top because you are feeling so good. Because now everyone is looking on you, you have achieved and you are feeling the top person. The unfortunate thing is, none of this lasts forever. They will always come down. So once you graduate and life is normal, then now you're going to hustle, you're back to the hustles of life. And once you're back to those hustles of life again, now you're starting to look for something else that will make you get to that level where you are feeling you are being recognized, your family is recognizing you, your friends, you know you have that trust, you can overcome pain, those kind of things. So eventually, what people do now, when they take the substance gives like thousands of times the amount of chemical that you will get naturally. So then that tends to lower, to make you feel that the normal production in the brain of that particular chemical does not help you. You don't even feel it. So you can't even be happy unless you have taken that substance. You see? So once you introduce the substance into your brain now, then your brain records that you can only work with that very big amount of substance. And therefore, in addiction now, the moment you have maybe smoked your bangi and you have felt what you have felt, that big chemical reaction has happened, then what happens is, once the bangi comes down, you want to go back and look for more, so that you can fill the gap that is there. So that is why they keep on going back. Unfortunately, some of the drugs like cocaine, they are very expensive. So that is where now you find someone who is using cocaine will then be looking for money in whatever way to be able to get the money to do what? To buy the cocaine. So they now stop life and they are busy looking for money specifically for the cocaine or even for the whatever injections that they are using. You see? So you realize that there's a lot about addiction that probably people have not understood. And the best way to do is just not to start. Because once you have started, and unless now you are helped, you just want to get more and more and more. And what is happening is these specific substances are causing some communication in the brain. There are some circuits that are being formed. A small one, once you have taken, a small circuit has been formed. That's a memory. Then you take again another circuit. Those many circuits, they create a pathway. So now the brain has a pathway, which is through and through. The more and more we take, then we create a highway. Now, that's when you say, now this one is addicted, this is a person now who will require maybe even to go to a psychiatrist or go to a rehab, treatment. Proper treatment has to be done. So addiction is really something that we need to really be able to take care of. And we said that people are not able to take care of their emotions. So you realize that for people who are addicted, they will also be suicidal. Because when they lack, then they are too low. So they are ranging between high and low. You might even say someone is bipolar. But kumbe, it's not bipolar, but they have those times. And during their low time, they might want to commit suicide. So you find a lot of suicides, coming from people who are using abuse now, using substances that are psychoactive. You find a lot of accidents, like I mentioned earlier, with even alcohol and other things. You find injuries. Some people will even try to cut themselves so that they cause pain, so that now they think that when I feel the pain, then I will produce the endorphin. The endorphin will be produced. They are trying to look for ways of producing that thing which has reduced in the brain, that chemical that has reduced in the brain. So you find a lot of injuries and even fighting among themselves. Then of course we said now, if you are injecting, there are so many other risks that are involved. Getting other diseases, getting other blood, blood because of the sharing. They are also getting other blood diseases. And of course this person is not productive. We said someone who is mentally healthy is productive and fruitful. This one is not productive anymore. If anything, they are more destructive because they will want to pick anything because all their life and their mind is concentrating on where am I going to get my next dose. Yes.
Well, thank you very much, sister. And on that note, we are going to take a very short commercial break. Remember that is the Health Week of the Presbyterian Church of East Africa, and the theme is Restoration to Wholeness. We take a very short break. Don't go too far.
A tree begins as a seed.
A marriage is instituted.
You now embark on the work of watering it, cultivating it,
Creating legacies from one generation to the other.
That is what growing families takes.
And for powerful discussions on family as we answer questions, demystify myths, and touch on those controversial topics, tune into CAC TV as we talk a whole lot more about family.
As we grow my family, grow your family, and grow our families.
Because a stable family is a stable society.
Join me, Faith Kaulu, together with Reverend Edward Karanja and Professor Catherine Gashuda on Transforming Families, right here at CAC TV.
Are you looking to grow a business? CAC TV offers you a variety of advertising opportunities to suit your budget. Advertise with us today and reach your potential customers countrywide. For more information, email us on sales@cactv.org or call 0794 588 054.
Welcome back, and just to remind you that it is the Health Week of the Presbyterian Church of East Africa, and the theme is Restoration to Wholeness. Our topic of discussion today is mental health and substance use. On set is Sister Margaret Kiarie, and Sister, before we went for the break, we were just looking at addiction. Yes. Let us now look at how these substances are administered into the body.
Right. So there are different substances are taken in different ways. So for the type of tobacco, they are taken through smoking, and there are some that are swallowed, like the drugs, they are swallowed. There are some that are put under the tongue. We call it sublingual. So you may not even know. You'll be with your child, and they just take something, put it under the tongue, and you continue. And they will continue doing even their work in class, but they are taking something. So you don't know. That mucous membrane under the tongue will absorb the substance. There are others that are injected. So, and they are injected in different ways. So there are those that are injected into the muscle, and there are those that are injected into the veins. And actually the ones that are injected into the veins, they are commonly used, and those are the ones that even cause people to have all the kind of other problems, because the ones if somebody doesn't have the drug themselves, what they do is when the one who has it injects themselves and it mixes with the blood, they'll pull out a little blood which is now mixed with the substance and give it to the other person. And the other person inject themselves with that blood, because then they don't have, and they also need that feeling. So then what have you done? You have introduced all the blood-borne diseases. Diseases that will be passed through the blood, they will be there. HIV, hepatitis, and any other. Then again, the other thing they do is I use the needle, I finish, I give you, you put your drug, you also inject yourself. Again, that is very, very dangerous. In fact, when they talk about problem drug use, if someone is injecting a drug, and maybe you are doing a study, and someone says I inject, that already is a tally. You count it as a problem drug user. The other thing is about there's that tobacco kind of a thing that are, and some other powders that are snorted. Snorting is you put it in the mouth and pull it. The way people used to take tobacco a long time ago. You know, you pull it, we call it snorting. You know, something like that, and you put it there, and then, you know, you see that person completely changes because it kind of goes into the bloodstream. The other one is inhalation. There are some substances that they burn, and then they start taking the fumes, and they just start taking the fumes. That's another way of taking it. But what we normally say is, any drug that reaches, the sooner the drug reaches the blood system, the faster the effect. So people, you know, even the ones who are using, they kind of graduate from one to the other, because the ones that goes into the bloodstream very, very fast are also not easy to get, and they're also very expensive. So they start with these other lower ones, and then they move on to the others. So because they need that. There are some which are just, you know, you find somebody with a patch, they just put it on the skin. You won't know, but that one is continually giving them the drug effect. But you may not know all these things unless now, you know, people are enlightened to even look out for them, and even to look out for the behaviors like we talked about. Yes.
Okay.
So those are some of the ways.
Thank you so much. Now let us look at the frequency. We've talked of addiction. At what point does someone realize that they can't do without maybe smoking today, for them to now be doing it every now and then?
Every now and then, yes. So thank you very much, Ida. Now, for that one, probably we would be talking about, you know, first of all, you only need the first puff or the first drug that you use. And most of the time, this is done in social gatherings. It is done, for example, now when the students are out somewhere and there's one who knows about it, so they will give the others. In fact, they say puff and pass. So you puff, you pass to the other, you puff, you pass. Maybe you're even in a party, and that's only for that day, and you're telling yourself, this is only for today. I just want to feel what happens. Puff and pass. And then you go home. Then you go to another party and you do the same. Then you go to another party and you do the same. These, remember, are just parties, and they are not even continuous. Maybe it's after a long time. Then there is also the other one where you have now, you are doing it, you're just experimenting, really. It's not for any, you're not thinking about doing this for the rest of your life, or even for more regularly. Then you go to another level where now it is occasional. Maybe every time we have maybe a birthday in our home, there is a drink. Every time it's Christmas, or every time it's Easter, or you know, those holidays, there are drinks. Now those are occasional times when people use. You are not now experimenting, but you know that occasionally we do take something. But remember, we talked about the genetic and biological composition of the person, or exposition of the person. Now, if someone among us who are doing it on occasional basis has those genes, then they are likely to want to do it again and again, isn't it? Then there's another one now, where now they move from there, and now you're like, but if I did it Easter, December, I don't know, birthday, I don't know, at somebody else's place, we did something, then you start now feeling like you want to actually do it again. So you might even now walk into the bar and take, after all, nothing happened. And really, you're not even concerned about, you're not thinking about addiction or about regular use. You're just saying, I feel I need, maybe the other time I slept so well, I feel I need to sleep well. Today I'm so stressed. Again, remember, this person is not able to cope with the stresses of life. So they are going, that one already is saying, I'm not able to cope. I need something to help me cope with the stress. Or today at work, it was so bad. let me just go and have. Then now it becomes more and more regular, because every time they took, they were able to sleep very well. So it becomes more and more regular. Then you find out someone is actually doing it like on a daily basis. Then now it goes like that, but now the problem comes when now this person cannot do without it. It becomes so compulsive that they might be at work, and at lunchtime the body is saying, I need, and then you are so compelled to go and get a drink. Now once it becomes that, then you have started becoming addicted. So that is now being addicted. It has now becoming addictive. And now once it gets to that level, it's very hard to actually say no, because you can't say no to it. It will just be pushing you to want to go for it. Yes.
Okay, let us now look at this person that is in a state that they can't say no to using drugs. Let us try and save this person. How do we treat this particular case? How do we save them from being an addict of this particular substance?
Yes, a very, very difficult situation. But yes, people are helped. Because this person now, what they need is support. But before even they get the support, do they realize what they are doing? Do they realize that they need help? So first of all, they have to be motivated to change themselves. Because it's very hard to get someone who is not motivated to change, even if, because there's no specific treatment that you can say, I'll give you this injection or this medication and you are well. There is no specific treatment for all the substances that are being used. So, but it requires the person, it requires actually the whole community, everybody around that person to be able to help. Because say, for example, you want to help someone who is alcoholic, for example, but you do have alcohol in your house. There are other people who are drinking in the house. So what will happen? Now what happens is, first of all, this person has to have motivation for change. And for this person to have motivation for change, they need to start thinking, what am I doing? What have I been doing? Are they feeling like, do they feel like they would like to change? Do they feel like this is causing, what my drinking, how is it affecting me? How is it affecting my relations? How is it affecting my family? How is it affecting my work, my wife, and my life and everything? So if now that person is concerned about how the effects of the substance they are taking to them and to the whole community and their environment, then that person has started getting motivated to start changing. And that's a very good point where now this person can start being helped. Because the moment now they start feeling like there are some effects which they are not happy about the substance they are using, and they are now concerned about this substance. But remember, they are compelled to take it, so they are not able to stop themselves. Now they are wondering, so what can I do? So that's the other stage. Now they start asking, so now this is what is happening, this is what has been happening to me, so what can I do? And actually they are usually very, very helpless. Because they're asking themselves, what can I do? They're asking themselves, can I really change? How can I change? But they don't have a solution. They don't have a way. Because remember, the body is still saying, go for another one, go for another one. So they start now contemplating on changing. And when they are contemplating on changing, they're asking themselves, so if I was to change, what would I do? How would I do it? And this is where now we have people who are called addiction counselors. If this person goes to an addiction counselor, the help will come in faster, because now they will be helped to be able to ask those questions and get answers for for those questions. Try to look at their environment. Try to look at around them and see where is their source of support. Who can help them? Who can actually, what can be done for them? How, what can they replace, that substance with? What is it that they can do instead of, when they feel compelled to take the substance, what do they have an alternative? The other thing is now, once they have now started contemplating and thinking, I need to change, how can I change and all that, now they start preparing to change. It is not, like a sequential thing that really happens, that once you are preparing to change, you cannot go back and take your drug. You will still go back and take your drug. It is a step forward, sometimes a step back, a step forward, and then 2 steps or 3 steps back and go back to the beginning. So it's a very, very difficult time, and that is where the addiction counselors come in, because they become now support, and they help this person to be able to make that step and remain on that step. But that doesn't mean even when they are using the addiction, they are being helped, they cannot still go back. They will still go back. But most people will actually be able to get out and get help. So once they now, start preparing, how will I change? Who do I need to see? So they see the addiction counselor. Who are my support systems that I need closer to me? Who are my friends who can support me with this? What do I need to stop? They are preparing in their mind. And then now, and even probably, planning and probably even now are thinking, even writing it down, what am I going to do? What's my strategic plan? How am I going to do this? What strategies will I use? They are just preparing. Then now they go into action. I said, I'll do this. I go see an addiction counselor, so I need to go. Who do I see? They go and see the addiction counselor. I said, I will involve so-and-so, 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 so they start doing those things, and actually now they start taking action over their life and over whatever they're doing. And once they start taking action, of course, now at that point you might find that somebody now even has abstinence, whereby they're not using the substance because they're taking action and they have decided themselves to take action. And then from there, they want to maintain that, the fact that today I was able to not take the substance. And how do they do that? They celebrate. Once they celebrate that small gain, that in itself triggers production of some of the chemicals that we talked about, because it's a good thing. It's an achievement. You remember we talked about achievement, status, and all that. But when they are going through it, there is also pain. And that pain will also help to trigger some. That whatever is being triggered is not as much as the substance was giving them, but at least it is something. So if they keep celebrating the small steps that they take, then you find that that person is going into the right direction, and they are actually going to come to the end of it. So eventually they will maintain that level, because they have seen, because after all, I didn't die because of not taking it. Yesterday I didn't die because of not taking it. The other day, and the other day, you see. So then they realize, oh, so I can't even die. Because the reason they are doing all this is because of survival, isn't it? Yeah. But then it doesn't mean that they cannot reach that level where they have not taken for a year and go back. It can happen. That's why support. And we say that people who have been addicted are forever in recovery. You never say that they completely healed. They are forever in recovery, because they can always go back if the circumstances allow. Yes.
Okay, of course, it looks like it's a personal decision to make, and you're talking of support. So how do these parents support their child? How does the community, the society at large support this particular person to their journey to recovery?
Yes. Now we call it a recovery capital. All that put together is recovery capital. Because remember, it's also not cheap. There's need for money that is going to take care of the bills that will be involved. There will be a rehab, probably. There will be some drugs, probably that will be used alongside, the other techniques that will be used. So then, remember, this person was labeled as an addict. And those are some of the things that we say that we should not be doing. We don't call people addicts. If I am Margaret and I use drugs, just call me Margaret, who is using a substance. But don't call me Margaret an addict, or don't call me an addict. I have a name and I'm only using a substance. It's only that that substance has turned to be now compelling me. You know, it's kind of, you know, taken over me, you see. So the community also needs to have a way of embracing people that are having substance use problems. You know, sometimes you see someone is trying to approach you, but then you know, this is all about the mlevi, you know. Term mlevi is another way of stigmatizing people and actually labeling them, you see. So you see this is mlevi. Then maybe they are saying something very important and then you're saying, ni ile ulevi yake. You see. So you find that this person is not actually, they don't feel that they belong. They don't feel they trust. They don't be. So you see that oxytocin, it's no longer working in them because we have pushed them away and because now they are not, you know, they are feeling that they don't belong anymore. So if we can be able to embrace them as a community, if we can be able to put our resources together and say you can do it, and all of us are encouraging and encouraging and encouraging, and every time you see them they are sober, you are just celebrating with them. You are helping them to feel that I'm actually achieving, and when I feel I'm achiever, then my dopamine, you know, production also, you know, the effects of that dopamine that will be produced also helps me to feel that I am also somebody, you see. So if we can be able to do that, the family, for example, try and even, you know, keep away these substances, you know, that are making somebody see and then remember and then they want to go back, you see. Or even in ceremonies or even that, or, you know, everywhere. But then again, even when they're with the addiction counselor, they also helped to develop coping mechanisms, because again, there are things you cannot change. If, for example, you are going on your way and you see a billboard there, it's written, I don't know, pills in a CG, the one with Guvu Nigani, I don't even know, but yes. So you see, you remember, and maybe you want to stop the next place and take it. You see, but there are things you cannot do. There are things you cannot be able to do because we are living in a community, we are living in a world where it's a free world, and people will advertise all sorts of things. Even on our TVs, they are also being advertised. So you can't do without that. But at least you will gain some coping mechanisms that will make you, even if you see that, then you don't feel like compelled to go and take. Yes.
Well, thank you very much, sister. It's been very informative. I know that it's a lot of information to take in, but it's step by step, even as we understand our mental health and substance use. Maybe you have any last words to our audience?
Yes, all I would say is that let's embrace people who are using substances. Let's help them. Let's join together as a community to help them.
Well, that was Sister Margaret Kearia from the PCA Kikuyu Hospital. And just to borrow some of her words, it's that being healthy doesn't really mean absence of disease, but it means being fit physically, mentally, and even socially. Our topic of discussion today was mental health and substance use, just to mark the PCEA Church Health Week with the theme Restoration to Wholeness. My name is Aida Munzati, and I hope that with the health tips and health topics, you're going to be restored wholly. That is all we had for you. My name is Aida Munzati. Until tomorrow, your health matters.